Good day. My name is Oluwamumi Shere Moradeo, and I'm with the Louisville Project. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard that the Louisville Project is EDGE certified. So, this chat is brought to you to help demystify everything concerning EDGE. What is EDGE? What does it mean to be EDGE certified? And what are the benefits of getting this certification? To help explain all this to you, we have.
Kushinga Kambarami. I'm
Okay.
the Green and Resilient Buildings Lead for the Africa region at the IFC and the World Bank.
Okay. Could you please explain your role in the IFC and World Bank to us?
Sure. So I lead the Africa region based out of Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm part of a team that is called Market Building with Products and Toolkits. And amongst the products and toolkits that we have developed and we're rolling out in emerging markets is the Edge Green Building Certification tool, which I'm here to talk to you about.
Okay, so for someone hearing about Edge for the first time, like in layman's terms, how would you explain it?
Sure. So Edge is many things. We say Edge when we refer to the Green Building Certificate or certification system, which can be used to access green finance products, and which is also a verification method to confirm that buildings have indeed been constructed as green and that they can be certified as a green building. Second is the Edge tool, which is a free online software that project professionals such as architects, engineers, etc., can use to test different green building measures on their projects in a simulated environment before they incur the cost of construction. And then EDGE is also a certification standard, which is a minimum 20% efficiency in energy, water, and materials, which is the minimum standard that we require before a project can be certified with EDGE. And that 20% efficiency is measured against a localized baseline. So in Lagos, it would be 20% more efficient compared to a similar building in that location. So that building has to then demonstrate that it is 20% more energy efficient, 20% more efficient in its use of water, and 20% more efficient in its selection of materials, meaning that
Okay.
it has to lower its carbon footprint.
Okay, so I know EDGE is an acronym. What does it stand for?
Yes, so it's an acronym. It stands for Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies.
Okay, so when a project like Louisville says it's pursuing EDGE, what are the things we look for? Like, what does EDGE actually verify?
So Edge verifies a few things from the building orientation. Has it been optimized to
Okay.
ensure that the interior of the building doesn't get too hot in the summer? The materials that have been selected, do they have as low a carbon footprint as possible? Is the building not over engineered with too much reinforced steel, for
Oh,
example?
okay.
And then on the water side, does it have water efficient plumbing fittings? Does it have rainwater harvesting capability? And in some cases, does it have on site grey water recycling, for example? And then on the energy side, it's things such as LED light fittings,
Mm-hmm.
on site solar, or other measures that result in the building using less energy because perhaps it's naturally more cooler in a passive way without using air conditioning because of certain design interventions. So there are more than 100 options
Hmm.
across these measures that a project can select and test out in order to make that building green or more efficient according to these parameters that I've described.
Okay. So, Louisville currently has the design stage preliminary certification. What's the difference between the preliminary certification and the final one?
Great question. So the preliminary certification is the certification that a project achieves based on its design. So before you go to construction, you have your construction drawings, you have your engineer's drawings, you have your bill of quantities, your technical specification documents, and this is what you have used to put the project together to cost perhaps the entire budget that you need to construct and deliver this building. So at that stage, you can actually certify the building with EDGE, meaning that if you construct it according to what you have captured in your design and construction documentation, that building will be an EDGE certified green building. after you finish construction and the project receives its occupation certificates, a second process is then embarked upon, which is known as the post-construction certification, where the project team then notifies an edge auditor that the project has now been complete, and the project has to also upload any evidence of design changes that may have happened along the way. Obviously, as those changes happen, you have to keep track of them to ensure that you are not jeopardizing your efficiency in terms of performance on energy and water, for example. And a physical site audit is conducted to now verify what you claimed in the design. Did you keep to that? Did you fit the more efficient lighting, more efficient plumbing as you intended to do? Did you use the construction materials that you selected to meet your materials measure? And once that's been verified through a site inspection, that project receives a post-construction certificate.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is after the project has gotten the first, that's the design certification, they still need to make sure that they're on track, making sure there's minimal waste, doing what they said they would in order to get the final certification.
That's correct.
Okay.
So often what happens is in design development, you might specify one thing, and when it comes time for the contractor to order it from the suppliers, they might say the product is discontinued.
Oh.
Now you are having to select an alternative material that performs equally as well, that is equally as efficient. So the post-construction audit verifies to say where you needed to make those changes. Did you specify with something of equal efficiency
Okay.
or even greater efficiency, or did you compromise? And you have to retest that in the Edge software and verify that after construction, the building was still a certifiable green building.
Okay, so I'm sure you've seen a lot of projects. Across the projects you've seen, what are the things that they usually struggle with to get the final certification after getting the preliminary one? You've already mentioned the discontinued materials, but besides that, what else?
Yeah, I must say, we don't see extreme cases of projects that struggle with post-construction certification, because once you have invested your time and money in the preliminary certification, it's also in the project's interest to follow through and complete the post-construction. But if I were to choose an area that might be of great challenge is where there have been changes in the design configuration. So say for instance, you have an apartment, a block of apartments, and in your off-plan sales, you find that the one-bedroom units are not selling as much, and you quickly reconfigure and change the typology mix and develop more two-bedroom units, right? Such a material change in the design is often what then poses a challenge in the post-construction certification phase. But if you don't have material design changes like that, it's often not that challenging to then meet post-construction certification. The only other area where a project might struggle, per my previous example, is where certain fittings and finishes are discontinued and you have to find a suitable alternative that is equally efficient. But often projects are able to successfully do that.
Okay, so if a development is achieving measurable energy and water savings on paper, what does that usually translate to for real life residents, the users of the building, and operators, long term building performance? Basically, what's on paper? How does it translate to real life?
So the Edge software uses a sophisticated algorithm which has a baseline. The baseline is localized. So for Lagos, it would be the local or national building code
Okay.
against which building plans are approved, right? So that's the minimum that we know that any new building of a similar type is going to have to comply with this before the authorities in Lagos can grant permission for construction, right? And sign off on it. And then what then happens is your efficiency is then measured against that standard method of construction to say, can you do 20% better? And the edge software is actually conservative in how it predicts the performance of the building. So if I were to say, well, how does that then impact the end user, the person that's going to occupy the home? Often we find that the buildings outperform what the software
Okay.
predicted, because the software is very conservative and it's based on a worst case scenario approach. So the real life impact, even if on paper it says the project is 25% energy efficient, in real life we find that the project would be at least 25% energy efficient, if not more, because those predictions have been on the conservative side according to how the software works.
Okay. So, in premium developments, there's usually a concern that sustainability increases the costs. So, what's your view on the right way to think about ROI and value, but like beyond upfront capex?
Um, Maybe I can talk to the upfront capex first and then I'll answer the question. So, in terms of upfront capex, the view that greening a building or an asset is expensive is quickly being dispelled. It's a myth and it's a misconception.
Okay.
I mean, I've spoken to people who are not green building experts, and their perception has always been it will cost them an additional 20% in capex, but really the actual figure is between 1 and 5%
Oh,
additional, in according to actual certified edge projects that we've surveyed. And the sooner you start incorporating and using the edge tool, which I described before, you can bring that additional capex cost to below 1% in some cases, depending on the project. And where's the value beyond that? You are future proofing your asset, especially if it's a high end product. Because the trend we are seeing is that building codes in Africa and globally are incorporating more and more green building principles. So we're not going to see a shift away from this. This is the way of the future. I like to say that green construction and green building methodologies in 20 years' time are going to be like your occupational health and safety. 50, 60, 100 years ago, you could do projects with no occupational health and safety file on site at all. But these days, it's unthinkable to even start a project without occupational health and safety considerations. I believe in 10 to 20 years' time, it will be unthinkable to embark on a project without considering green building aspects. So you are future-proofing your asset, de-risking it against legislative risks, where the legislation is going to become stricter as we try and meet our Paris alignment goals of decarbonizing all new construction by 2030 and all new and existing construction by 2050. So the rules are going to get stricter. And by complying now and embracing those green building principles now and investing in a certified green building now, you are really investing in an asset that is future ready and that is likely going to hold its value a lot better than a brown building, which likely needs to retrofit to then comply with future legislation.
so if I'm understanding correctly, it's a myth that people think your building will cost 20% more if you go green. And not only that, you actually get more benefits from going green.
Correct. And I haven't even mentioned the big part. If you are an owner occupier, you also get the benefit of the lower utility costs, because if your building is using at least 20% less water and less energy, that means your energy and your water bill is going to be lower, doesn't it? Because by using the edge software, the first thing we try and do is to reduce the demand. How can we design a building that requires less energy to be thermally comfortable for the human beings inside without plugging something in? Can we introduce passive cooling measures where the building cools itself? Can we find ways to reduce our water consumption before we introduce expensive technologies? And that's not always understood in the public domain, because the minute you say green buildings, people think expensive technology, expensive finishes. But that's just half the story of building green. The other half is finding intentional and clever ways to reduce your requirement for energy, to reduce your water consumption, to do more with what's already there before you invest in expensive fittings and finishes.
Okay. So, from your vantage point across Africa, what trends do you see taking place in the green buildings and future cities, like for the next 5 to 10 years?
In the next 5 to 10 years, that's a tough question. Please don't hold me to it if it doesn't happen that way.
No, it's fine.
But in the next 5 to 10 years, I see more and more markets in Africa adopting green buildings as a mainstream principle.
Okay.
Where now in a lot of markets it's perceived as a niche sort of approach. But you can see in markets like South Africa, where I'm based, that green buildings are more and more common. The average person you speak to on the street actually now understands what a green building is, right?
Yes.
And I see that trend continuing. And I think as more and more people understand the buildings or the benefits of occupying a green building, the demand for green buildings is going to grow. And those developers and investors that are ahead of the curve and are investing in their knowledge and understanding of green buildings now will be well positioned to then meet that demand that is coming. So I see greater awareness of green buildings, stricter regulations,
Mm-hmm.
requiring greener construction methodologies, greater demand for green buildings, and more green finance products in multiple markets as well.
Okay. So, for projects like Louisville, what practical advice will you give them? Because they want global positioning, premium credibility. So, what advice can you give them and other developers to get that?
I would say the advice I would give is embrace the wave of green construction. Right, it's the future. It's where we're heading. We are not gonna turn away from that. The impacts of climate change are real.
Mm.
The the energy insecurity issues that we suffer on the African continent are very real. So these are issues we're going to have to face and confront. And the sooner we sort of embrace and educate ourselves and become more aware of what a green building is, and adopt to these changes, the better. So my advice would just be, number one, increase your awareness and understanding of green buildings. And number two, share your knowledge as far and wide as you can, which is why I'm here talking to
Yeah.
you,
Thank you
because
very much.
as we need more people to understand the benefits of green buildings and why they're important, and to understand the fact that green buildings actually contribute 40% of global
Mm.
greenhouse gas emissions globally, because normally when we talk about GHG emissions, people immediately think of internal combustion engines and the types of cars we drive, but we neglect the built environment.
Yes.
40% is significant, and there's something we can do about that. And where we can, then we owe it to ourselves and to future generations to make those interventions.
Okay, so I know you visited the Louisville project recently. What stood out to you as encouraging or made you think, wow, these people are taking green more seriously than the EDGE certificates? Or am I over speaking?
No, you're not.
Okay.
I mean, what stood out to me was the passion, right?
Hmm.
Beyond just we want to get the EDGE certification for our project, I could see that the entire team was conversant with what the mission and purpose of the work was. And everyone is aligned with that vision. But more than that, what encouraged me is how young the team is.
Hmm.
So it gave me hope for the future, that the young people are going to, lead the charge in this. And I was very happy to see how many young professionals are actually driving this change and running this project, and the quality of construction and how well run the site was. I think I made that comment when we were on
Yes.
site. Extremely well run site, very organized, very clear what the vision is and what targets you're pursuing. So yeah, I would say that.
Thank you very much. So, in 1 minute, if you were explaining to a buyer what Edge Advanced is, how would you do that?
Very easy.
Okay.
So if basic edge certification requires 20% efficiency in energy, 20% efficiency in water, 20% efficiency in materials, Edge Advanced is where a project achieves at least 40% energy efficiency
Mm-hmm.
over and above the 20% efficiency in water and materials. So 40% energy efficiency or greater, that project automatically gets certified as EDGE Advanced. And then EDGE Advanced projects can then target EDGE Zero Carbon certification, which is where the project can then seek to either purchase carbon offsets to offset any non-clean or non-renewable energy sources that they've used over a period of 1 year with a minimum 75% occupancy. So EDGE Advanced is kind of an ambitious level of certification, and it's where we want projects to also set their sights. So we need more EDGE Advanced certified projects, because those are projects that have great potential to become zero carbon certified sometime in the future as well.
Okay, what you said just made me very happy, because I know Louisville is EDGE Advanced certified. We have 47% energy savings, 27% water savings, and 20% less embodied carbon in materials. So, thank you.
That's really great. That's great. And I'm not surprised. I mean, with the level of ambition within the team, I expected nothing less. So, yeah.
Okay. Could you share examples of how the EDGE certification has reduced the cost of financing for developers?
In certain instances, there have been financial institutions that have created blended finance and concessional finance products to try and subsidize the additional cost of greening for these projects. That's obviously very market dependent, and whether there are donors that are willing to provide that concessional funding as well. Those are the ways in which I've seen it done. Other ways I've seen it done is where you have developers that build for rental portfolios. They then benefit from the lower utility costs because they build to retain those assets. So that means their operational costs are lower, which then makes their projects a lot more profitable, right? So, and in beyond just homes, if we talk about industrial and warehousing projects, a lot of developers have been able to attract international, multinational companies as tenants because of their EDGE certified status. And that obviously makes them more attractive to a prospective investor. If you have strong anchor tenants who are multinational companies that come with a strong ESG mandate, and you are demonstrating that you can meet that need through the EDGE certification, that just makes you more attractive as an investment prospect as well.
Okay, that's good, because it brings me to my next question, which was, is the EDGE certification recognized by ESG funds? I asked this for developers that are looking to attract green financing.
Yes, so EDGE is accepted globally. We are aligned with all of the global standards. So yes, there isn't a market or DFI you'll approach who won't accept EDGE. It's globally accepted no matter who you approach.
Okay, thank you so much. This was such an enlightening conversation, especially the part where you said that buildings only cost or usually cost 1 to 5% more when they go green. Because I'm very sure whenever anyone hears green, they just think of a more initial capital. And as you said, it's a myth. So it's so nice hearing that a lot of buildings that are actually standing and EDGE certified don't spend as much as everybody thinks. And I think developers need to know that, because climate change is real. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, maybe I can just add to your point as well. It's true that the cost of building green is much lower than people think. There is an additional cost, but it's not as much as people think. And when you look at the return down the line,
And the operational
these
costs.
green measures pay for themselves, in a fairly acceptable period of time. And EDGE can be used to certify existing buildings as well. So it's not just for new construction. But having said that, the cost of greening, I can reiterate, is much lower when greenfields projects or new construction projects, when they incorporate EDGE measures right from the beginning. The earlier you start, the more time you have to value engineer. The more time you have to value engineer, the more you can lower that additional cost. And that's really how it works.
Wow, that was such an enlightening chat. I even learned things that I had not known before, like you can get an existing building certified. Remember, Edge doesn't cost as much as people think. You have lower operational costs and you're saving the environment. So let's embrace sustainability today. Choose Edge, choose Louisville.